welcome to our post-election coverage on Rants and Raves, my video blog. So there I was at our local radio station, doing election commentary with a very nice fellow from the Democratic Party. It happened very suddenly by accident. I was driving home and our local state representative called and said, "Listen, we haven't got anybody, and I guess you're more of a libertarian." Yes, I'm more of a libertarian. I didn't tell him I'm not even a registered Republican, but they needed someone from an opposing side on there. He turned out to be much more knowledgeable about local races than I was and such, but it was a very nice chat, and we did get into the stuff I like, which was about things like why we shouldn't junk the Electoral College and some philosophical observations and my notions, some of my notions about the sea change in politics going on. At any rate, from 8 to 11, by 11 o'clock, it was down to Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, essentially, and a scattering of other states like that. Doing the math, we signed off, and my Democratic colleague there very nicely conceded, "Okay, it's Trump." I went to the pub a little bit after hours. "Hey, Steve, how are you? Here, have a beer anyway. What the heck?" And I said, "Looks like it's Trump." Guy looks at his phone, says, "Yep, looks like it's Trump." Went home, went to bed. 5 o'clock in the morning, got up. I should check it, and said, "What the heck is going on?" Well, as things subsequently emerged, we know a little bit more, but not as much as we'd like about what is going on. I posted on social media that if you're not really scared right now, you're a fucking idiot. I would like to apologize for that. Perhaps I expressed that badly. Perhaps I should have said, if you're not really scared right now, you're not paying attention. And you're a fucking idiot! Is me. What appeared to happen was that in Michigan and Wisconsin, Trump was ahead by comfortable margins. Like I said, we did the math there, and then we find out a friend of mine who was actually watching, he probably didn't have any wet paint around to watch, said that at some point they called a halt to the vote counting, and then, boom, all of a sudden, vote dumps. Huge vote dumps, 100% for Biden. Okay, to consult a couple of sources here. The Federalist, from the Federalist, as reporters and commentators went to bed on Tuesday morning, all three states were too close to call, but Trump led former Vice President Joe Biden by comfortable margins, far beyond what had been predicted in the polls. And interesting things were coming out. Trump is actually a little bit behind in the demographic white men, but he made, as I predicted, I will tell you, significant gains in the black and Hispanic votes, both male and female, and evidently the gay vote. God knows how they found that out. But, okay. None of the networks called these states because enough mail-in ballots remained uncounted so that it could swing either way, but Trump's position looked good. Okay, looks good, which is not the same as in the bag, but looks good. Then, something strange happened in the dead of night. In both Michigan and Wisconsin, vote dumps early Wednesday morning showed 100% of the votes going for Biden and 0%, that's zero, so not even one vote for Trump. Okay, folks, when I bring this up, I have gotten some really lame answers. Well, early voting, mail-in voting, our voters are overwhelmingly Democrats because, Republicans didn't like it. No, they didn't like it. I didn't like it either. And a friend of mine in the UK said, "Well, we've been doing it for years." And I said, "Well, yes, but did you put the system together in 3 months during an emergency at a time when people don't really trust each other?" I said, "This is not the right time to go screwing around with the voting system." Told you. In Michigan, Biden somehow got 138,339 votes, and Trump got none, zero in an overnight vote dump. So, let me go over something about statistics with you guys again. And remember, I have taken statistics. In grad school, I took advanced statistics. There was actually a time I could have told you what Cronbach's alpha was. That information has left my head, and I'd have to crack the books to get it back again. But most really egregious, there are, I would say, two kinds of really egregious mistakes in statistics, which I say is why polling is so often off these days. Is either analysis, the methodology of analysis is flawed, or the sampling method is flawed. What usually happens with these kind of things is somebody thinks up a question and it's just too broad and too general. Like I pointed out last night, do you think the country is going in the right direction? Well, in the right direction could mean a whole bunch of different things to a whole bunch of different people. The question is not exactly meaningless, but on the other hand, it doesn't tell you a lot either. So, if you sample from one district, if the sampling is random, say lost votes, if votes get lost in any other way than intentionally, then found votes should mirror the voting percentages, the voting ratio from that district, i.e., if it's 90% Biden, 10% Trump, there still ought to be 10% Trump votes in there. It's just statistics. A 100% one or the other is not statistically possible. So, to continue from the Federalist. When my Federalist colleague Sean Davis noted this, Twitter was quick to censor his tweet, even though all he had done was compare two sets of vote totals on the New York Times website. And he wasn't the only one who noticed, although on Wednesday it appeared that anyone who noted the Biden vote dump in Michigan was getting censored by Twitter. All right, from the Daily Caller. Election officials in Michigan and Wisconsin refused to explain Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden's sudden and dramatic vote tally increase that occurred in both states Wednesday morning. That's the other point. What happened in Michigan and Michigan and Wisconsin is so similar. It looks, if this was some kind of an accident, and there were claims that where is it? There were claims that there was like a misplaced zero or something. Okay, maybe that happens too. Most computer glitches are in fact data entry errors. But Michigan and Wisconsin state officials warned against misinformation being shared online, but wouldn't comment on specific vote tranches that appeared to show former Vice President Joe Biden suddenly receiving more votes than President Donald Trump. The two battleground states remained tightly contested as of Wednesday. They've now been called. One electoral map says they've flipped. Vote tallies spiked around 6 a.m. in favor of Biden. 6 a.m., huh? According to graphs of live tallies, Trump tweeted they were finding votes for Biden all over the place. Well, they are. I would not ask everybody not to repeat misinformation, Michigan State Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson told reporters. Okay. This is bad. This is very bad, folks. In another story, I hear Joel Pollack of Breitbart, Ben Smith in the New York Times column Saturday is devoted to the question of how the media will handle election night coverage. However, buried near the end of Smith's column is a report that Democrats have participated in a war game in which they consider several possible outcomes of the election. Hat tip, my friend Don Rowley, who remarked, there are 4 possible scenarios of the outcome of this. Only one of them does not involve some form of civil war. This ain't one of them. This is going to come, I promise, to a very shocking conclusion that a great many of my Facebook friends are looking at me like, what the heck are you talking about? In one scenario, John Podesta played former Vice President Joe Biden and refused to concede the election. That's happened. Well, he's declaring victory. Uh, uh, so the other scenario is Trump doesn't concede the election. The scenario, by the way, that does not involve civil war or secession is a clear-cut Biden win. And I'm going to tell you all, I won't save it for the end, I'll tell you right now. The best scenario out of this election right now looks like it would have been a clear-cut Joe Biden win. Then we could all say, oh shit, sucks, but let's go home, we'll plan for the next election, heck, we'll run Pence or we'll run Trump again or something like that. That's what would mostly happen. The rioters would still riot. I mean, let's face it, because rioting is fun. But this, if any of this is true, the late night vote dumps. There are reports, I have not seen those lately. There were reports at first that there were Trump poll watchers who were ejected from watching the vote count and such. If that has not been followed up by tomorrow, I would say, then we might be able to discount that, because they would be dragging them in front of the counters and in front of the cameras and saying that. So the claims among certain naive people that well, it's most people who vote by mail vote for Biden anyway. In Wisconsin, Michigan, Georgia, and Ohio, Trump was leading in late voting. So again, more likely does not mean 100%. It never means 100%. Okay, so getting down to the wire. Hopefully, all of this will be explained, or at least a convincing lie will have been erected so that we can, in a face-saving gesture, say, oh, well, aw, shucks. Sucks to be us next time, and then quietly make preparations to see that it doesn't happen again next time. But this is too in your face. It's too in your face. It's too like, we're going to put our thumb on you and you doesn't say boo about it. It can't be ignored. I wish to God it could be. Say, the other thing about this is the compact has been broken. If in fact it does turn out that there was an attempt to steal the election, it has to be punished. It has to be prosecuted. There has been, I believe, since the founding of this nation, or any similar nation, an unspoken compact that an incoming administration does not prosecute an outgoing administration, no matter how egregious the crimes are, because it's just too easy for that to go wrong. So, well, we may no longer have that luxury. And if it shakes out that Biden takes office, what are they going to do? There's a lot of his people that want the Trump administration prosecuted. So I am going to urge calm. Now, as I've told people, one of the reasons I'm really scared right now is I've lived in the Balkans. I lived in the Balkans in 1967, 1997. There during a somewhat unsettled time, which is bizarre. I saw countries which superficially looked very, very Western, like a place you wouldn't feel, you wouldn't feel too terribly away from home living in one of these places, as you would, say, if you were living in Far East Asia or someplace like that, where things look truly strange from our point of view. So it was shocking to see a country at civil war over differences I could not see and hardly understand. I say, be calm, folks. I am already hearing stuff. This means war. This means, this is when it comes out. It can always be done later, but once that genie is out of the bottle, it doesn't get put back in easily. You don't trick it in with a clever riddle. So, be prepared. Be prepared for the worst. If you live in a large urban area, told you again, you should have gotten out a long time ago, but you know that by now. With exceptions like Oklahoma City, for example. But say, Republicans, remember that you hold the Senate. Biden is, face it, it's pretty much undeniable. Biden did not have anything like the energy Trump does, and his lapses are not gaffes. It's fairly obvious Biden is at some stage in the early sign is showing signs of the early stages of dementia. Kamala Harris is tremendously unpopular, and nothing is ever going to make her really popular, I think, except among diehard feminists who have personalities as unpleasant as hers. Uh, as I said, you still hold the Senate, and now, because of the Amy Coney Barrett um, nomination being pushed through, now you have the Supreme Court as well. That presents problems. If this goes to the Supreme Court, like the last time it did during the Bush-Gore election, and it's decided on a strict party line vote, then the cries of selected, not elected will arise. It will be a strict party line vote, which does not mean that one side is not right and the other is not wrong. If that happens, then perhaps we can settle this with a long-term investigation. If vote fraud is, I think this likely, if it goes that way, if vote fraud is identified, then we prosecute. We try to make sure we make that as unpleasant as possible, so that it does not happen again, or at least not so blatantly. Hey, Democrats, the next time you try to steal an election, throw in some opposition votes. Make it look probable so we can save face and ignore this and not tear the republic apart. So, after that, I can't sleep, so why the heck should you? So, then, night, folks. See you later, I hope.